So our company is called Metaverse, and here's the quick agenda of what we're doing. Since a lot of you have played around with Metaverse, I'll make this relatively quick, and then we'll get into building various experiences. This call will sort of be an overview of the platform and also a kickoff to our Metaverse Teachers Hackathon. The Teachers Hackathon will start after this call and run for a week. We're calling it a hackathon, but what we really want teachers to do is just really experiment with our platform. This isn't, a hardcore competition where, we're looking for a single winner. If you ever have any questions throughout the week, please reach out to us. Myself or Luis will answer any questions that you have, and we're always available on Facebook or via the live chat built into the studio. So, as I said, Metaverse was started by myself and two others. We're a relatively small company. We've been around for a year. Some of us are from places like Google, Magic Leap, MySpace, Disney, and Fujitsu. I actually recently graduated from college, as well as my roommate who started the company with a fellow from Google. We have 23 investors, all from various places. There's a list on our website, so I won't get into this too in depth, but we have investors such as Michael Eisner, former CEO of Disney, Mike Jones, CEO of MySpace. People from all sorts of walks of life and various industries are backing us. So what's the big deal? I'm sure you've seen a lot of people talking about AR, and especially how AR and VR can impact education. Tim Cook is a huge proponent of AR, and the new iOS 11 will actually have AR kits, so the ability to render sophisticated experiences in the real world. This is a quote from Tim Cook. I regard augmented reality as a big idea like the smartphone. The smartphone is for everyone. We don't have to think the iPhone is about a certain demographic or country or vertical market. It's for everyone. I think AR is that big. It's huge. I get excited because of all the things that could be done that could improve a lot of lives. So influential people like Tim Cook, AR is a super hot space right now. It seems to be talked about all over the place. As Tim says, it's profound, super excited about it. I just wanted to yell out and scream. We're building it into iOS 11. This AR kit seems to be the predominant feature of iOS 11 thus far, and they're opening up AR to developers. Now, what we're doing is allowing anyone to build AR experiences, so taking it beyond just tools for advanced developers. And then he goes on to say, allowing brands to create their own experiences. Organizations such as GoMeta are putting accessible AR tools into brands and marketers' hands right now. Our world is about to change dramatically. We've seen big changes before, especially in education with desktops, laptops, internet, mobile phones, and AR. At each of these points of inflection, there are huge opportunities for education. Things like the internet allowed people to research topics online and expand their horizons for various subjects. Mobile phones allowed people to learn education on the go, educational curriculum on the go, and AR has the potential to do the same. So how can AR be used in education? Let's take a step back. Metaverse is a new platform that facilitates the rapid creation of interactive experiences. Now, these experiences are not always rendered in augmented reality, but augmented reality is definitely a huge part of our platform. And we'll get into various other kinds of experiences. Metaverse can also be things like VR. It can load websites. We're calling this all sort of an interactive experience. Experiences are created using Metaverse Studio. It sounds like a lot of you are already familiar with Metaverse Studio. It's a free sort of WYSIWYG editor that allows you to create experiences without using any code. Creation is easy in the studio with what we call scenes and blocks. I'll show you an example of this when we get to the studio portion of this, but scenes are UI elements and blocks execute logic between scenes. Scenes and blocks are organized on what we call a storyboard, and it's a drag and drop WYSIWYG editor that allows you to link these scenes and blocks together to form an overall experience. And then here's a sort of a breakdown of the studio. So we have blocks used for logic actions. They execute code between scenes. So blocks are things like probability. I can say I want to have a dice roll between this particular scene. And depending on the outcome of that dice roll, transition to in one direction or transition in the other direction. Scenes are the UI elements. So scenes are the AR interface. So it would be your AR character. Most of the time that's rendered with a speech bubble and various actions. So we could have a multiple choice question and a stormtrooper and various responses to the question above. And everything is configurable by the right-hand panel. And we'll get into this again a little later. Experiences are just like mobile apps. To run experiences, you have to have the Metaverse app installed, and I will show you what that looks like in a second. Experiences themselves can be saved to your phone's home screen and accessed anytime, just like you would access something like Instagram or Facebook or your Chrome browser on your phone. You could tap on your educational experience from your home screen and access only that experience, sort of your own white label of Metaverse. Again, you'd have to have Metaverse installed on your phone to access this, but you could save experiences to your home screen and access them anytime, sort of bypassing the initial flow of the Metaverse app. They run on iOS and Android, so every experience that you build is automatically cross-platform. If any of you are familiar with developing, iOS and Android have completely different computer programming languages, and even if you were an advanced developer and you wanted to build, let's say, a simple trivia game for your students or for a school, it would take upwards of 2 months to build. Metaverse allows you to build these extremely rapidly, and they're automatically cross-platform. You don't have to deal with anything like the Apple review process, which sometimes takes over a week, and you don't have to deal with sending it off to the Play Store and waiting for them to review. Each of these apps are easily spreadable, so you can share them in emails, post them on Facebook with a link. If a user taps on that link and they have Metaverse installed, it'll simply render the experience. If they don't have Metaverse installed, it'll prompt them to download Metaverse, and then it will render the experience. Just like the web, these experiences are easily spreadable. On the left is what experiences look like from our launcher page in the app. And I can search for a particular experience. I can save experiences to my home screen. Or I could, as I said earlier, download them and save them as an icon on my home screen of my phone. They can be sent via IM, email, link, shared on social media. They can be posted to a physical location. So experiences, when we first started building Metaverse about a year ago, a lot of people looked at what we were building as Pokemon Go as a platform, because you could create experiences that act a lot like Pokemon. You place them at a specific location, and only when I'm at that location, I'm able to interact with that experience. And then we can also send push notifications. So creators can re-engage their audience with push notifications. They can send messages to one another. I can send experiences in the app to Luis, and Luis can enjoy those experiences on his phone no matter where he is. So experiences can be published, as I said, online or sent around or displayed at a physical location. What kinds of things have been built by our creators? So we're a relatively new company. We've been around for a year, and we've been in mostly stealth mode. A lot of people have heard about us just through word of mouth. We have 11,000 beta testers that are creating all types of experiences. A good majority of them are teachers. We have people, parents, celebrities, ad agencies. We're working with large studios in LA. We're working with big record labels like Sony Music, Warner Music, Universal Music, and we're working with just companies all across the board that see what we're building as a way to rapidly create AR experiences or interactive experiences as a whole. So how can what we're building be used in education? Metaverse is a platform that allows you to gamify learning. And when I say gamify learning, I mean rapidly build experiences that help facilitate learning. So you can build storytelling. You can tell the story of Romeo and Juliet in your classroom or across the school campus. You can create complex scavenger hunts that have, students looking for specific items in the classroom, taking photos of items and checking those items off of a list. You can have challenges, games, quizzes, check-ins, and really teach the basics of computer programming to students. So when we get into storytelling and scavenger hunts, for storytelling as a whole, you could create a single experience, sort of a RPG, choose your own adventure story. I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with the choose your own adventure books. And I'll show you an example of this in a second, but we have creators that are creating these very sophisticated choose your own adventure stories, and stories such as, an astronaut that has crash landed on Mars and how I interact with him in various scenes affects later outcomes in the story. So if I did this story, it would be a lot different than if Luis did the same story. I can link experiences together to tell a story that consists of multiple experiences. So I could create a Pokemon Go style scavenger hunt, as I said, that takes place across the school campus or in a school classroom, and students would have to go to each of these locations or complete each of these experiences to finish the scavenger hunt. And I can control how students progress in the scavenger hunt. So we had one creator that created a scavenger hunt that was to collect all of the presidents of the US in the correct order. Only when you found them in the correct order were you able to finish the scavenger hunt. And then as far as classroom dynamics, we can create things like teams and send groups of students off together to complete the scavenger hunt and compete against other students in the class. You can easily make games and challenges. A lot of our teachers have come from Breakout EDU. If you're not familiar with Breakout EDU, it's essentially a box with a padlock on it, and students have to participate in various activities to work out the combination to unlock the box. We've had teachers make digital versions of this using Metaverse. So it's, as you can see on the right-hand side, there's a safe, and it says, can you open this safe? And I can try a combination right off the bat, or I can complete experiences that give me clues as to how to unlock the safe. We can have experiences that task students to perform an action in the real world. So we had a teacher that said, take a photo with as many students as there are on Mount Rushmore. Only when they did that, they were able to progress in the experience. And I'll show you how we were able to do that in a second. Require that students complete an experience or set of experiences in a certain amount of time. So I could have a quiz, or I could have a sort of diffuse the experience in under 60 seconds in order to complete the challenge. And then, as I said, Breakout EDU style challenges. We have a lot of teachers that are using this for quizzes. So you can see on the right, this is a simple quiz with George Washington, and it's saying which one of these facts is incorrect. If a student got this right, they would earn a point. We're able to sort of keep tallies on students and see which questions they got right and which ones they got incorrect, exactly like a quiz. And this is all done, again, without any code. We can have students complete short answer questions, so ask open-ended or precise string. Think like a password, so you could have a password on the wall, and an experience would say, enter the correct password in order to progress in this experience. And we can tally scores, as I said, for the individual experience or a group of experiences. So if I had a sort of cluster of history experiences in my classroom, or just posted on the app, I can tally a score across all of those experiences to create a quiz. So when I was, I'm a recent graduate of college, and when I was in high school, a lot of my teachers were making me, or encouraging us to go to things like the theater or go to the zoo in order to gain extra credit. We've had teachers create experiences at these locations, and when users get there, they're able to check in and earn extra credit automatically. And then we've had teachers also do this for attendance. So every day there's a new experience in the classroom, students come in and they complete that experience in order to earn points throughout the year. And again, so we've had teachers creating experiences and also students creating experiences. The platform itself is really great at showing sort of the logic of computer programming. You're stringing these various scenes and blocks together to create an experience. Um, we're working with organizations such as the Girl Scouts that are teaching young girls how the basics of computer programming by using Metaverse. Each of these scenes and blocks, if you are teaching a computer science course or your students are, mildly familiar with computer programming, you're able to edit and customize each of these blocks with just simple JavaScript. And I'll show you what that looks like in a second. Cool. So let's hop into the Metaverse Studio and maybe show you a few examples. We'll build something for you live and then show you examples of what teachers have built. So I'm going to stop right here and get back to this. And Luis, if you want to, are there any questions so far?
Nope. Okay, cool. So hello again, everyone. My name's Luis, and I'm the community manager and the creative producer here at Metaverse. I'm going to show you one example of an experience that is very simple and we can build in about 10 minutes. This example specifically is going to be an extra credit experience that students can do outside of their classroom to earn extra credit for your class. So if you have any questions at any point, feel free to leave a comment in the chat box and we'll get it answered. And if not, we're just going to jump right into it.
Awesome. Cool. So let's go back to the storyboard. Here you go, Luis.
Cool. So we're going to be building this experience right here. But don't worry. We're not going to build. Before I explain any of this, we're just going to start right at the beginning. And so to do that, you're going to see your experience menu. And this is my dimension. So I've created sort of a bunch of games and other sorts of things here. But the important part about this is you're going to click on this Create New Experience button. And those of you that are familiar with the studio should be familiar with this Create New Experience button. So you can see in this new experience, we're taken to what we call a storyboard. And a storyboard is this area here. This is going to be your canvas. This is going to be the area that you create your entire experience in. Now, a storyboard is made up of two types of elements. The first is a scene, and the second is a block. Now, scenes are going to be your visual elements, the things that you will see on your phone, and these blocks will execute your logic. So let's go ahead and get started with this thing. We're going to make an extra credit experience. So first thing we have to do is select our character, and I have a bunch of characters here. Just go with this. Let's go with Spider-Man. I found a cool Spider-Man GIF. He says, hey, you can earn some extra credit. And he says, and then we add a button at the bottom by clicking this Add Action button here. And for the button, we'll just say, okay. Now we move on to the next scene. And in this next scene, I'm going to use another character scene. And this character scene is going to ask a question and have a multiple choice response. So in this scene, we're going to say, what is the square root of 9? And we're going to have a few different options. Maybe one will be 4. Maybe another will be 12. This one will be 9. That'll be our answer. And then the last one will be 3. That'll be our final answer. Cool. So these are all of our choices. And as you all know, 3 is the correct response. And so what we're going to do is have 2 scenes that branch off. And one is going to be the correct response, and the rest of them are going to be the incorrect response. But first, let's go ahead and link these 2 scenes up. So we're going to click on this button, and you'll see right here on the right-hand side, you'll see transition controls. So we're going to transition to scene because we're going to a scene, and we're going to use this little pointer right here. So we just click on that pointer and then highlight where we want it to go. We're going to click on that, and now you can see it's all linked up right here. Super, super simple. So now let's go ahead and add, since we're branching off into two scenes, we're going to add two additional character scenes. So here's one, and here is two. Okay, great. And you're gonna, as you continue adding scenes, you're gonna have the ability to scroll left, right, up, and down, depending on the size of your experience. So I'm just gonna drag this one down here, and then we're gonna link all of this stuff up. So first, let's put in our dialogue. So this one says correct. And then we're gonna say, here is some extra credit. And we're gonna add this value in just a second. But for now, let's just link this up right here. Transition to scene with our correct response. And this one will say wrong. Try again. Cool. So now we need to link up our last three incorrect responses to this bottom scene here. And you'll see it's super simple, super fast, nothing too complex. You're just sort of transitioning all of these to their proper scenes. You can see sort of like a pathway for all of these. And now here we're going to add a button here at the bottom that says try again. So that'll actually bring them back to the question and allow them to respond again to this question that we're asking them. So we're going to try again.
Were there any questions so far about how Luis has set this experience up?
Zoom out a little bit. Yeah, is this all making sense so far? Cool. All right, let's keep moving on. So we can end this here, of course, but I want to make this a little more rugged than this. Oops, sorry, looks like we got, does this support Chinese characters for text? Yes, it does. You'll need to switch your keyboard to the Chinese keyboard, but it should be able to take any text that you'd like to input in there.
And one thing with Chinese specifically, the UI of the app is rendered in English. We don't really translate between languages just yet. So the experiences can be in Chinese, but the rest of the app will be in English. Awesome.
Yep, no problem, Megan. All right, let's keep moving on with this experience. So we have our buttons here, and here we are going to take this. Here, let me zoom in so y'all can see a little bit better. But here I have a button that says try again. And so instead of ending the experience here, like we would in the other one, we're going to actually transition this back to our original question scene. And you can see that this now links back to the beginning of this scene. So if they click try again, they'll be able to answer the question again. And this button right here will say end experience, and it will end their experience. So as we continue looking at this, just a quick overview, we have our intro scene here. We have a question that's being presented to a student right here. And if they get it correct, it'll give them some extra credit. And if they get it wrong, they'll have the ability to try again.
One second, we're just going to set up the ability to show this on the phone.
Yeah, so we're linking our phone up now so you can see sort of what this experience will look like on the phone. And it's really easy to test experiences on your device. There's actually a button on the top right-hand corner of your storyboard which says test on device, and that allows us to test the experience on our device. Great, so now you can see on the right-hand side, I have my phone open here, and you can see I'm dragging up and down on the phone, and on the left-hand side, we have our web browser with our storyboard scene right here. So let's go ahead and test this thing on our device and see what happens. So you can see on my phone that I'm dragging around and the experience is locked into place right there. So it says, hey, you can earn some extra credit. So I'm going to go ahead and click OK. And it says, what is the square root of 9? Now, let's put in the wrong answer and see what happens. So let's say 12. It says wrong, try again. Okay, so we'll press the try again button. And it'll ask again, what is the square root of 9? Now we know the answer is 3, so I'm going to click 3. And correct, here's some extra credit, and then we end our experience. Now, obviously, this has no way of tracking currently how many extra credit points we're giving. So let's go ahead and add that into this experience. And what we're going to do is we're going to be using some code blocks to do that. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to click on Add New, and here we have all of our scenes which we've been using, but underneath is a bunch of different code blocks. The specific code block that we're going to use is under User Properties, and it's going to be this increment user property by. Now this is going to allow us to increment a user property, and if it's not already existing, it'll create one for us automatically. So we're going to call this extra underscore credit. And then let's say if they get the question correct, we'll give them 5 extra credit points. Now what I want to do is, because we can't end our experience on a block, so I'm going to actually put this right before this correct scene. And so we got to link up this correct button to the block, and then we'll link up this block to this final scene. And let's also add a little extra dialogue into this final dialogue box, and we're going to recall that value in this piece of dialogue. So we're going to say you now have, we have to use a special syntax, so it's $ and curly brackets, and inside of that curly bracket we're going to type props dot and then the name of the user property key, which is this extra underscore credit which we just typed. Ooh. Sorry. Looks like I accidentally pasted a URL. So let me type this again. Extra underscore credit. And then we'll select all and copy that. And then we will paste that in here. Okay, cool. So it says, here's some extra credit. Now you have blank number of extra credit points for the semester. And so you'll be able to look back at this value over the course of the entire semester and see how many points an individual student has. So let's go ahead and try this out and see what happens now. So I'm going to go ahead and test on my experience. And there's our Spider-Man again. He says, hey, you can earn some extra credit. Okay. What's the square root of 9? 3. So now it's running through the increment user property block. It says, correct, here's some extra credit. You now have 5 number of extra credit points. And that's just a typo on my end, but it's basically incrementing the user property extra credit by 5 and then displaying that in this dialogue scene. Cool.
Does this make sense so far?
Yeah, any questions so far? I'm going to go ahead and fix this piece of dialogue right here. It's going to say you now have blank extra credit points for the semester. Okay, cool. Looks like we don't have any questions, so we're going to move on and make this even more robust. So I'm going to go ahead and zoom out, and to do an overview, again, we have our initial scene, we have our question, we have our wrong response, and we have our user property of extra credit, which we are now tracking across our entire semester. Now let's say we only want a limited number of tries for this specific experience. So if you're giving extra credit, let's say they only are allowed 3 tries for this specific experience. We can actually set a user property at the beginning of the scene, which we'll call tries. So let's go ahead and do that by clicking Add New. And then in this user properties tab, we'll go down and use this block called set user property. Now, you'll say, okay, I added it, but I don't see it. Well, that's because it's always going to be on the top right-hand corner when you add something new to your storyboard. And I'm going to click and drag that all the way to the beginning of the scene here. Now let's just give this user property a key. So I'm going to call this tries. And we'll set the value to 3. So we've got 3 tries. Now what we need to do is link up our initial scene to our set user property block. Here's our initial scene, and instead of transitioning to scene, we'll transition to a block and use the pointer to select where we want it to go. And then in this user property block, we're going to have it transition. Well, we actually don't need to have it transition to the scene. What we want to do after this is run a check to see how many tries they have left. So to do that, we're going to add new, and then we're going to use this block called check user property, and that's going to test the value of the user property block. So it's on the right-hand side. Let's drag it, and we'll bring it down here. This is going to transition to our next block. And here we have to input a couple of things. The first thing is the key that you wanted to check. Now we called this user property tries. So I'm going to copy and paste that into our key here. And now it's going to analyze that specific user property. And we want it to test to see when it equals 0. So every time they run through and get the question incorrectly, it's going to reduce the number of tries that are available in this experience. Once the user property equals 0, it'll go into a branch scene. And then on the failure means that they still have more tries left. So let's go ahead and link this on failure to our main scene here. And then we're going to add a new scene for when there are no more tries left. So on success of the user property equaling 0, we'll link to this scene, and it says, sorry, zoom in so you could see a little better. Sorry, you have no tries left for this question. Okay, cool. And we'll have a button here that ends the experience. So the last thing we want to do, since now we have set our user property and we're checking the user property, is every time that they get a question wrong, we need to actually decrement that user property by 1. And so after the question, let's say they input a wrong answer, we're going to add a new block under user properties again. And this one's going to be the decrement user property by block. It's going to decrement the user property by a certain value. So we're just going to leave it at 1 since we only have 3 tries. And then we're going to use the key that we used at the beginning, which is just tries. I'm going to copy that and then paste that into the key here. It's going to decrement by 1, and then it's going to transition to our wrong scene. Cool. So now we have to link up all of these wrong responses to the proper code block. So let's do that really quick. We'll transition to block here, and here, and here. So all of the wrong responses are now going to this decrement user property block. So that is basically the entire experience. So what this thing is doing is right at the beginning, we're setting a user property called tries. Then it's going to check to see how many tries we have left. If we still have tries left, it's going to take us to the main scene, which will say, hey, you can earn some extra credit. Asks them a question. If they get it right, they get some extra credit points, which we're tracking via this increment user property block. And if they get it wrong, it's decreasing the number of tries that this student gets until it reaches 0. Once it reaches 0, it'll then go to this scene that says, sorry, you have no tries left for this question. So let's go ahead and test this on our device so I can show you how this works. Oh, actually, you know what? Let's add one more thing. Let's display the number of tries that we have in this wrong scene right here. So we'll say you have, and then we're going to use that special syntax, $ curly brackets, props dot, and we named it tries. So we'll say tries. You have blank tries left. Cool. Now we're all linked up. I'm going to go ahead and test this on my device, and we'll see what happens. So you'll see on the right-hand side, there's our Spider-Man, like we've seen before. Hey, you can earn some extra credit. Okay. What is the square root of 9? Now let's pick the wrong answer and see what happens. And you can see in my storyboard, we're here. We're going to pick the wrong answer. It's going to decrement that user property we set at the beginning, and then it's going to display the number of tries we have left. So let's click 4. It's wrong. You have 2 tries left. Okay, let's try again. What is the square root of 9? So we'll say 12, and this should be wrong. You have 1 left. And then we'll try again, and this time we will pick the correct response, which is 3. And it'll say, correct, here's some extra credit. You now have 10 extra credit points. So this is actually still tracking from the first time that I tested this. So this is just showing you that this is a property that'll be tested over a long period of time, and you can check back on that user property at any point. Cool. So at this point, we have 1 try left. So I'm going to go ahead and test this on my experience to show you this section, which is checking to make sure that we have 0 tries left, and then it will take us to this scene. So, hey, you can earn some extra credit. What is the square root of 9? Let's click 9. It says, wrong, try again, you have 2 tries left. Oh, I see, we're setting the user property again. What is the square root of 9? 4? Nope, still the wrong answer, 1 try left. And what is the square root of 9? Is it 9? Wrong, we have 0 tries left. So then we're going back to the beginning scene, it's doing the check. I'll say, oh, you know what? I linked something up incorrectly. So you can see we have -1 tries left. So what we need to do here is, instead of linking this try again back to our original scene, we actually have to link it to the check, because otherwise we'll just loop infinitely through this question scene. So let's go ahead and link that to the check. So we're here on our wrong scene. We'll go to transition to block, and we'll use the pointer and go to this check user property block. So now this is trying again and running the check. Let's do a final test, and then this should be all good to go. So you can see this process is super simple. A lot of it is linking stuff together and seeing what works. What's the square root of 9? Okay, we got to get this wrong 3 times. Well, we have 2 tries left. Okay. What is the square root of 9? 1 try left. And the last time, what is the square root of 9? We have 0 tries left. Okay, we're going to try this again, and it says, sorry, you have no tries left for this question. So that's the entire experience, and that's how you'd make it here in the Metaverse Studio. We built this in about 10 to 15 minutes.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks for showing that, Luis. With this experience, I wanted to point out a few things. This experience currently is not placed anywhere. So if I click on this icon right here, this little, we call this an entry block with a gear, you can see that the experience type is set to no position right now. So this experience doesn't really exist in the Metaverse system right now. I'd go to no position. I can choose a fixed position. So I can click where it says set a position, and I can choose a location. By default, it shows up where you currently are. So this is where we're doing the webinar from right now. I can get really specific and say I want it to show up right on this curve of this road. Now, if I were to place this experience at this curve, a user would have to be within 20 feet of Spider-Man in order to interact with it. I can search for any address, so 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. I can go to the White House and place him at the White House if I wanted to. And again, a user in that area would get a notification and they would see this experience. Let me double check. Okay, cool. So one thing I would have to do as well before I exit this experience is give it a title right here. So I could call this Spider-Man. And if a user searched Spider-Man in the app, I can show you on the right-hand side. So we'd go to experience, no position. We don't want it to be posted on a map, but we do want it to allow standalone discovery. Standalone discovery means that a user, anyone that uses Metaverse, would be able to search for this particular experience by its name and find it in the app. So if I tap on search, I could go to Spider-Man, and there is my experience. I could tap on this and interact with it from the app itself. Now, I think Matt had a question about how to save these experiences to your home screen. These experiences right here, this is the homepage of Metaverse on the right-hand side. We have nearby dimensions and experiences. When you first create an account in the Metaverse Studio, you're given your own dimension. Think of dimensions as sort of your own canvas for the entirety of planet Earth. You can place experiences anywhere in the world, and it's sort of an isolated grouping of experiences. Now I say place, but again, these experiences don't have to be placed at physical locations. I have a list of nearby dimensions, and you can see the globe and the duck and that J, and underneath all of them it says 45 feet, and then the J says 69 feet. What that means is there's an experience 45 feet away from my current location. If I tap on the globe, you can see that I get this map view, and these are all of the experiences around my current location. Now, these are mostly test experiences. That's why there are so many of them. If I were to click on this one, this is a family up the street that created a scavenger hunt. You can see that there's one experience near my location, and this experience would prompt me to go to another experience that is part of the scavenger hunt. So we have dimensions, and then these experiences underneath the dimension list. These are featured experiences. I can tap on one of these. So if I long press, I can add it to my favorites. I can send to any user on or off network. I can copy a share link, so I could post this on Facebook or post this on any website online. I can save to my iPhone home screen. So if I tap Save to iPhone home screen, we will open this and say tap to share the icon, and then tap Add to home screen to save this experience. I'll tap this sort of box with the arrow, the share icon, and then I'll say Add to home screen, and I can give it a name, and I'll just keep the default name, and I'll press Add. And then you can see that that experience is now on my home screen. It says Give and Receive Item. I can access that experience simply by tapping on that icon. And I bypass the sort of home page of Metaverse, and it will load the experience. Again, I apologize for my network. This experience would load in the app itself. And let's close this. Any questions so far? Any questions, please?
Do all images automatically appear in AR?
So all images do automatically appear in AR. I will show you if I go to Add New on the top right here. We have various types of scenes. We have the character scene that Luis showed you that he used in his last experience, which is an image, speech bubble, and various buttons that a user can interact with. We have a text input scene, which will be a character, again in AR, and a user can type a response. So you could say, answer a specific short answer question, or enter the correct password in order to progress in the experience. And then we have a request item scene. So some of these experiences can give you digital items that are deposited into your inventory. So think maybe a treasure chest may ask for a virtual key. And only if I have that key, I'm able to progress in the experience. We have a web view scene. So to your point, you could have a character that is on a web page that would be rendered flat. It wouldn't be rendered in AR. So a web view scene could link to any website. We've had teachers use this to link to things like Google Forms or to link to various other teaching materials online. We have a camera scene, so we can launch the front or rear facing camera, and this can be photo or video. And you can even do things like add a filter overlay similar to Snapchat. So you could say History 101 in a certain building, and that filter will be displayed over my image. We have a YouTube scene, so we can embed YouTube at physical locations or within these experiences. 360 video, so you could play any 360 video, and this 360 video can also be 360 VR, so split screen VR. You could have an experience that says, okay, now put on your Google headset, and you put on your Google headset and you would be placed into this virtual world from an experience. And then we have 360 photo, just 360 photo placed at an experience. Now, we have numerous kinds of blocks. Blocks are constantly evolving. Developers are able to add their own blocks to our community. So as we get more developers, our metaverse becomes more powerful as developers add these new functionalities and new capabilities. So we have Google Vision blocks. I don't know if you're familiar with Google Vision, but Google Vision basically allows you to take a photo and search the photo for a particular thing. So you could add this block that says, you could have a student say, take a photo, and only if you're smiling, you're able to progress in the experience. You can say, look for a particular object. So you could say, we have a tutorial that is, take a photo of a hot dog. It's from the TV show Silicon Valley. You can have an experience that says, take a photo of a hot dog. If it's not a hot dog, you won't progress in the experience. And we can check count faces. So as I said, we had a teacher create an experience that said, take a photo with the number of people that are on Mount Rushmore. So these are unique ways to engage students in your classroom. We have various other camera blocks. As Louis showed you, you can upload to photo walls. You can do various things with inventory, so give items, check if the user has an item. You can increment leaderboards, do various probability checks, so dice rolls, coin flips. I could have an experience that starts with one scene and then goes to a coin flip block, and then that coin flip block transitions to two scenes. So I have a 50-50% chance of going to either scene 2 or scene 3. Does this all make sense? Awesome. Were there any other questions? Cool. So what I wanted to quickly do is show you a few other examples of what teachers have built using the platform. The example we showed you today is relatively trivial. Now let's go to this one. We saved a few of these links here. This is just a simple welcome experience. It's the introductory experience for this teacher's dimension. It says the teacher's name, supervises video, and then gives a student a digital item. In this case, it's a video camera. Later in his other experiences, he will ask for that video camera in order to progress in that experience. We have this other experience that is a simple multiple choice question. So which type of seminar is held here during Zero Bell? If you get it right, you transition to the correct scene. If you get it wrong, you transition to the incorrect scene. We have a breakout EDU style experience that's really cool. It is a safe, and I'll zoom out so you can see the whole experience. It's a safe, and I'll zoom in a second so you can read what it says, but basically you have to unlock the safe, and you're given two options. You can either just brute force, try to guess the correct combination, or you're asked a series of questions, and these questions are clues to the correct combination. So if I zoom in, you can see, can you open the safe, try a combination, or get clues. So if I try a combination, I transition to this scene, and it just lists random combinations, or I can get clues. So it'll say square root of 81, a basic math problem, and then Brady Bunch children. So you can see that the answer is 976. If I don't enter 976, I get this boom, and I haven't completed this experience. If I do enter 976, it'll increment my score on a leaderboard and then open the box. And in this case, it's a treasure box. When I open the treasure box, it prompts me to take a selfie, and then uploads that selfie to a photo wall. Now, photo walls have unique URLs that can be displayed, to students and experiences, or can just be for a teacher. So in this case, photos are uploaded to this particular domain, and then it ends with the Kool-Aid Man. Now, we have 5 minutes left. This is just a very simple, basic overview of the platform. We've covered maybe 5% of the capabilities of this thing. It gets really, really sophisticated. We have numerous tutorials that I'll post after this call. Does anyone have any questions about anything I've shown you? Any questions about sort of capabilities? Even questions about sort of the hackathon that we're doing starting after this call? No questions? Okay, awesome. Here, let me go ahead and come back to this. So as far as the hackathon, what we are encouraging teachers to do is to make an experience. You can make any number of experiences, but first create an experience, share the experience you made on the Metaverse Teachers Facebook page. A lot of you are already part of that, so just post your experience in that page. Use the hashtag MetaverseTeacher in your post, and just make sure you fill out the contest submission form on Google. That one is attached in this particular teacher contest hackathon event page. And as I said, you can enter multiple times. We'll have a winner by the following, not the following Monday, but the Monday after that. And we will have a sort of follow-up webinar where teachers can sort of do a show and tell of various experiences that they have created. Awesome. Let me stop this screen share. Cool. Well, thank you so much for getting on this call. We really appreciate it. We're really excited that so many teachers are using this. We've seen awesome things made by teachers and students at various schools, so we're really excited to have you using this. Please, if you have any questions, post them in the Metaverse Teachers group. $200 is up for grabs for this teacher contest. $200 in school supplies. So we're really excited about that, and we'll probably do a lot more of these in the future for particular students or schools. Awesome. Thanks.